I would like now to introduce Jack-Whelan. Jack is a principal and analyst of a research firm that focuses on information technology and the internet infrastructure. He's also an author, lecturer, research advocate, and cancer survivor. Jack was diagnosed in 2007 with Waldenstrom's macroglobulinemia, a rare and incurable blood cancer. Jack has kindly offered to share his experiences with cancer, including as a patient in several cancer clinical trials. His story and the stories of the other panelists you'll hear from today demonstrate why policymakers must increase their commitment to cancer research and biomedical science. Jack, please join me at the podium.
Well, good afternoon. Did you ever ride on a roller coaster and when plummeting down that first hill, you felt like your stomach was going to fall out? You felt like holding on, and you could feel your blood pressure, go up, and then you had a hot flash, perhaps one of your first hot flashes. I'll never tease anybody here about hot flashes, but I've had some experience with those. Anyway, about 7 years ago, thank you, Marge, you're so good. About 7 years ago, that's how I felt when my doctor said, you have a rare blood cancer. You know, these emotions come over you. And I didn't buy a ticket to get on this particular roller coaster. This is a ride that I didn't sign up for. I think I got in the wrong line somewhere along the way. But it's a question that all of us cancer patients ask. You know, how did I get this? Where did it come from? So I'd like to say, again, I'm Jack-Whelan. I'm a 7-year survivor of a rare, not yet curable, it's curable, but not yet curable, a blood cancer. It's a rare lymphoplasmacytic lymphoma called Waldenstrom's macroglobulinemia. And there's about 1,500, maybe a little bit more of us that are diagnosed every year. So that's about 2 in a million. That's pretty remote. Now what's really interesting is that 2 of us are in this room today. The chances of you having Waldenstrom is a totally remarkable coincidence. So we just not ride any elevators together because we have this heavy IgM, which causes a problem. So that's an inside joke. Anyway, but so it's a pretty rare cancer, and good research is bringing us better biomarkers and genomic indicators of what we learn, in fact, is a very rare cancer. In fact, it's my hope, it's all of our hopes, that we're going to identify many more rare cancers. We don't know that they're rare today. We call them lymphoma, leukemia, myeloma, but there are many variants of these cancers, and we don't know which ones are very rare yet. We're learning, we're getting there. But given the opportunity, I would hug everyone in this room. I really would. I know many of you, which really makes this very cool, but I would hug everyone in this room because you're probably involved in life sciences, or in the medical profession, or advocacy. And this is something that I think is pretty unique, and I can't think of a better place I'd rather be than right here today. So anyway, to get started, I would like to paraphrase that great American philosopher, Forrest Gump. He would say that patient advocates are like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. And this is true. I'm sure this has been your experience, Marge, because you don't know what you're going to get with patients. So I would like to first thank the American Association of Cancer Research for leading the charge today, and in particular to thank Dr. Margaret Foti CEO of AACR, I think everybody knows that, but really for inviting me to speak and to really assemble what's more than 200 advocacy groups that are participating in what we hope to accomplish over the next couple of days. Also, I'd like to thank all of those advocacy groups in AACR for orchestrating these meetings with lawmakers. They need to hear from us, and that's pretty exciting. So first of all, let's hear it for the advocates. Are there any advocates in here? All right, great. And let's hear it for our team at AACR. Come on, make some noise. We're at the press club. Yeah. Anyway, I got to deal with this water on my paper here. This is kind of makes it interesting. So anyway, because Waldenstrom's macroglobulinemia is rare, we borrow chemotherapies and other biologic and small cell therapies from other blood cancers while we're learning more about the biology of this cancer. We're essentially taking an empirical approach, which is basically to try drug A, and if it doesn't work, move on to drug B. And there's some guessing involved. We're not quite there yet, but we have picked up on some biomarkers and some genetic defects. We've actually identified the translocation of the misspelling of the gene that causes the proliferation of these cancer cells. So the good news is that we think we're getting close to developing specific therapies that might block the molecule or a certain pathway that are important for the development of these cancer cells. So that's really very good, especially if you have what we call an incurable or not yet curable cancer. Because there's no cure, I chose to participate in clinical trials as the best treatment option for me. I've become a very active research advocate, and mine is a relapsed refractory, actually very active form of Waldenström's. Most Waldenström's are indolent, they move slowly. It's sort of like a rusting automobile. Ultimately, you need to get it fixed, otherwise your transmission or engine will fall out. So the good news is it doesn't kill you real fast. It's over a long period of time. So anyway, but I've been in treatment most of the 7 years, and I've had these really great periods of progression-free survival. And that's really what it's all about. Now, most important, because of good research, I have a happy, productive life outside of cancer circles. On Sunday, my wife and I celebrated our 45th anniversary. Yep. And if she were here, I would tease and say, you know, if you add up all the years, that's 2 years of happiness together over the 45. You add up all this. But anyway, it's an old joke. So, but anyway, and I'm also a dad to 3 fabulous daughters, Laurie, Karen, and Patty, and 3 awesome sons-in-law. My daughter Laurie has twin baby girls that are now about 3 years old. My middle daughter, Patty, had a baby just about a year ago, and we just found out she's expecting again. And my youngest, my Karen, is also expecting twins. So we have twins everywhere. There's a DNA study for you, Dr. Ken. We have to look into that. Anyway, but it's important that I do have a life outside of that. And I know I spend a lot of time in advocacy circles. I'm on the road. I'm really out of control, as Marge would say. But it is something that I really like doing, is getting the message out. And I think speaking to lawmakers is about one of the best things we can do. I'd like to say that I don't participate in clinical trials for any altruistic reason. I do this because I think it's the best option for survival. Personally, I think altruism is a little bit overblown. If you do one-on-one with a patient and say, why are you doing this? We want to survive first. And if we can survive first, there's a whole bunch of other things we can do centered on altruism. So don't believe, you know, well, I'm doing this for the benefit of man. We're not. We want to be here first, right? You guys know what I'm talking about. So anyway, you know, at the time of diagnosis, the historical outcome and all the evidence on the internet at that time was about 5 years. And that just wasn't an exciting number, 5 year. I don't care if, you know, if the clock started ticking now or, you know, you were symptomatic years ago. The point is that 5-year outcome didn't look good. So I thought door number 3, which was forward-looking science, what was available in clinical trials, was a much better option. I personally, my key message is I believe if you're diagnosed with cancer, take a look at what's available in clinical trials, because what we know about genetics and genomics is a very good chance there's a therapy that's much safer and more effective than conventional chemotherapy. So I want you to do me a favor. Would you please put your hand right in front of your face? Everybody do this right now. And I'm going to try to read this at the same time. But if you can put this hand in front of your face and look around, just kind of look around. And this is like cancer when you first get a diagnosis. That hand is right in front of you. It's constant. You wake up in the morning, the hand is there. Good morning, hand, get out of the way. And over a period of time, you try to move the hand out of the way, and it comes right back in. You know, just as they're about to hook you up to an infusion pump, the hand comes right over here. You're getting ready to slide into a CAT scan machine, that hand comes right back in. So what I think is important, that to get that hand out of the way, I think if we rely on education and advocacy, you know, really get more involved in your own cancer. And this whole education thing kind of moves it aside because you start to see that there are other options, that hand is not so important. Now, what I would also do, and I won't do it here, but I would suggest that if you put your finger in one ear, that probably gives you what happens when you're talking to your doctor, because from the day you hear you have cancer, you only hear about 50% of what he or she says. You don't listen, so it's a good idea to bring a caregiver or somebody along with you when you're seeing a physician. So I wanted to make this a very upbeat, very exciting presentation today, and I hope it is. But all that changed on Monday. And let me tell you about Anne-Marie Doucette. She's a healthy, vibrant, 50-year-old, successful businesswoman, dear friend, and to so many others, dear friend to so many, and madly in love with her husband, Jerry. She had been misdiagnosed for almost a year, and she was symptomatic for almost a year. She required urgent, immediate care. She began chemotherapy, and later she had an autologous transplant, stem cell transplant. For the past 5 months, almost 6 months, we talked, we texted, we tweeted, we Facebooked, we ordered all of these kinds of things regularly as we were both getting infusions, and typically on Saturdays and Sundays. And what's amazing, I'm getting infusions now every Friday, every Saturday at Dana-Farber. You'd never believe. That's one of the nice things about the progress we've made. You wouldn't think, and isn't it funny how people go, oh, you don't look like you have cancer, which is really, it's a great indicator. It shows you how well we've come. You know, we don't walk around looking green anymore and purple and all that stuff, so we're doing better. But anyway, she wanted to be an advocate. In fact, we had talked about getting into Marge's Scientist Survivor program, the SSP program. I've had the benefit of participating in the AACR SSP program. And she was like a little grasshopper. She really wanted to get into this program. She was an ardent runner and exercise enthusiast, but she died unexpectedly on Monday afternoon. And I almost called Dr. Foti to say, I can't do this today because I'm so sad and I'm so mad about where we are with cancer. We're not moving fast enough, people. You know, I look at, you know, one of the problems with being in advocacy, you get to know each other. We check up on each other. You know, you know who I'm talking about. We're afraid. Who are we going to lose? It's a terrible frigging thing to be looking at this. We lose people all the time. You two guys, you know what I'm talking about. Across the room, we're constant. We need to fix this. This is not funny. This is not, we have to find a way to do it. And relying on our congressmen to not follow what we say. We're the boss. Anyway, I'm betting on research, and I'm betting that we can convince our lawmakers about the importance of properly funding this. You know, let's do the math, and this is a no-brainer. NIH last year had a fiscal budget. Well, actually going into October, its budget request is about $3.2 billion, well, $30.3 billion, I'm sorry. And as a result of last year and the sequester, it has been down year on year sequentially pretty meaningfully. And this is atrocious. This should never happen. This should never be up for negotiation. We need to find a way to get around that and never let that happen again. Now, but that budget, so let's say it's $30.2 billion for the year. The Census Bureau estimates that the population of the United States will grow to about 322,365,787 people. If you divide that over the NIH budget, we're talking about $94 for each of us. If every person in this continental United States kicked in $94, that would achieve the budget we had. I'd like to say to Dr. Collins, what would you do with an extra $10 from each of us? If we had, I mean, this is ridiculous that they're only asking for 1.5% increase. Why that is, I don't know. Maybe we're not selling it. Maybe we're a bunch of engineering medical types that aren't good in sales. We need to go make some sales calls and convince these people this is a smart investment. Anyway, according to the OECD, which is really a cool organization based in Paris, the OECD is the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. This was a group that was spun out of the Marshall Plan. When our parents, after World War II, picked up the tab to rebuild Europe, they didn't float a bond, they didn't stick us with the bill. They paid the bill as we should be paying the bill now. Okay, it's not something we should leave off to our kids. We need to pick up the bill now. But the OECD does a valuation of about 39 leading democracies, and they look at how much we spend and in healthcare costs, and there are a number of agencies in the U.S. that verify these numbers. The U.S. spends about $8,745 per person. The UK, it's about $3,300. Germany is $4,800, and the average OECD country is about $3,400. The point is, there's something wrong with the math here. We're talking about less than $100 in research going over to NIH, but we're incurring these medical costs of $87.45. It makes no sense. It makes no sense. If you ran your own home resources like the budget like this, there'd be a major problem. So part of our mission is to make this very clear to the legislators. Now, NIH estimates that more than 1.66 million Americans will be diagnosed with cancer. 585,000 will die, and that's about 1,600 persons per day. How many Anne-Marie Doucettes will we lose? How many more advocates here will we lose? When will the topic of cancer show up at your breakfast table? We have to decide to fully fund NIH. This is our decision. These members of Congress work for us. We are the boss. This is our chance to tell them what we want, what we need. Whether you talk to a legislative aide or a congressman, you have to make your appeal clear and understood. We need to speak directly to our lawmakers about the need to reliably, consistently, and increasingly fund biomedical research, and in particular, the National Institutes of Health. If we can't do this, then who can? Thank you.